we have two DPs now, so we have two hosts. So there is one stringent and I am the stringent. I think Ishan just forgot to mention, I think Dinesh is basically a civil engineer. He has done his master's from SEP in Ahmedabad. It's one of the most prestigious colleges. And he's been in BMC since 1998, so very senior. And we know him for many years. A big round of applause for Dinesh. He was appointed as a town planning officer. It means he was the one who has actually been very, very instrumental. Of course, with Pathak Sahib's guidance, he was the one who was there to overlook all of this. So it's been that. So coming to the slides, since we're actually running a little late, I'll just rush to them. You'll have to bear with my speed, and I feel that you should pay a little more attention so that if I go fast, I'm not going to go slow any which ways. So starting with the impact of the revision, I'm going to cover the next slide, please. This was published under the notification under number CHE 32596 DP General dated 25th of February 2015. This is the day, appointed day on which this notification of draft DP was published. Okay, and the next slide. I think Nikhil, you just go to the next slide. What is new, you can ask, and almost everything is new in this. So that is what is there. I have already discussed this before. So parts 1 to 10, SDCR 1 to 7, there is an issues 5.1 to 15.5, and the fire people have got 28.1. Everything has been simplified as far as reading of the regulation is concerned. I am going to cover the first, second, and the third part partially, except the layouts, which Manoj Daisaria will be starting. The first part, administration, the preliminary, the first page of the DCR says what is the short title. This is how any legal thing starts with. This regulation will be called as the Draft General Development Control Regulation of 2034, and the plans will be called as Draft Development Plan of 2034 Second Edition. The jurisdiction is entire of Greater Mumbai, but if you notice the plans, areas of Oshiwara District Centre, Airport, and DKC have been excluded because they are special planning authorities under Section 40. So jurisdiction is entire Mumbai city, right from Dahisar to Colaba and Manpur to Colaba. The commencement of the Act is only on the sanction of this regulation. What we are discussing today is the DCR draft, but pending sanction, this is not applicable because the DCR 1991 is applicable. It has been published under Section 26 of the MRTP Act. The transitional arrangement, recently the BMC has come up with a circular which Shirish rightly said. There has been a procedure laid down under circular number 34194 of DP General dated 10th of March. We will come to that subsequently at the end of my slide. So there are certain exceptions to everything, just like there is a conflict between these regulations. This is when I am talking when these regulations are sanctioned. So if these regulations, when they get sanctioned, if there is a conflict between the other regulations GDCR, this will prevail. In town planning schemes, also this GDCR will prevail, except the access in town planning schemes, certain plots have been given 6 meter accesses. So irrespective of that, that access will be considered as adequate. The interpretation of this regulation is also mentioned. Certain things are very, very momentary. Interpretation is basically he is them is he, singular is plural, plural is singular. That's what interpretation means. Section 3 mentions the delegation of powers. Except, just like earlier, wherever special permission of commissioner is mentioned, those powers cannot be delegated. Every other power can be delegated. Very important is clause number 4, which is very important. This is very similar to 64B, which is currently being used. Every property is going under 64B. So this DCR has been drafted so that very few files goes to the commissioner. 4A is the discretionary powers where the commissioner may decide on matters of error, requirement, decision, determination, and any other things which the delegated power has used, but he can interpret it otherwise. And he can also authorize erection of any building for public utility purposes, only for public utility, for public convenience, even if it is not permitted in the DC regulations. The main clause is 64B, which is replaced by 4B. Wherever there is specific cases of demonstrable hardship reasons recorded in writing by the commissioner, that's again what we practice currently, he may permit all the dimensions in this DCR to be changed or modified, but subject to FSI, he cannot change the FSI, this is like earlier, but even parking he cannot change. So the regulation which mentions 100 square meter one parking, he cannot give you more parking even if you really need those parkings. Sorry about that. You have to take it in FSI. Required marginal open spaces have been showed in page number 77. So if you refer to those sketches are the marginal open spaces. As rightly said, smaller properties will really face a problem to consume the FSI that has been shown 5, 6.5, even 3.5 is very difficult to be consumed even though we take everything in FSI. The purpose probably is to amalgamate plots and make larger developments. But having said that, the moment you cross 2000, you have to provide 10% MNT. Anyway, this is provided nothing else that affects the health, fire and structural and public safety. The next slide. Administration, the definition of terms, all the definitions have been mentioned in Annexure 5.1. In the previous DCR there were 102, I think now there are 153. Terms and expression, if the definitions are not mentioned in this DCR, you have to refer to the MRTP Act. If the definitions are not there, then you can refer to the MMC Act. If the definitions are not there, you have to refer to the NBC. NBC definition So these are the definitions. Coming to development, yes, as rightly said by Manoj Desai in his keynote, development includes demolition. This is very rare. Demolition was never part of development. There was ambiguity in this. This time they have made it very clear. Development includes construction, engineering, mining, blah blah blah. But including demolition, demolition is also defined as construction. The permission of planning authority under section 43 of the MRTP is necessary, which is basically every application, every development requires permission. But again, there are exceptions. Maintenance and interiors, except those in heritage buildings, you don't need permission. Any development done by central government and state government for their purposes, then it is not requiring any permission. For excavation of wells, etc., you don't need permission. And of course, public utilities don't need permission. We probably still use candles if public utilities needed permission. So that's what. The next one. This is very interesting. We have actually noted down in this GDCR, they have noted down professional services. The first, if you see the arrows, license surveyor, advocate, supervisor, structural engineer and plumber, we always used to appoint, but they have broadened the scope. They have brought in, which is very good, rainwater harvesting consultant, a stormwater drain consultant, grey water consultant, energy conservation, fire safety, HVAC. All these consultants have been brought in for properties of larger size. The sizes have been mentioned. So there is a scope for wider consultancy of these because anybody and everybody cannot do this consultancy. It's a specialized job and you need specialized people to do that. Again, replacement of professional. These are all general procedures of how you can change the professional, or if the professional can resign and he can get another person in record. Basically, that is 6.3.3. So similar the process which is right now, if somebody doesn't want to do your job, you can approach the deputy chief engineer and approach him and ask him for his resignation with the status of the work that he has done. Similarly, 6.4 is certification required for high-rise buildings, which is a certification has to be given. 6.5 is application for development permission. This is referred to, the forms are also there, and next to 6.2 is the form. Now this is where it's different from what we are currently using. This is what is the main difference in procedure. Earlier we used to go to the building proposal for layout and IDs. Now they have split the stages into two. The first stage is planning permission, which will go to the chief planner, which is in development plan department in head office. And the second stage is building permission, which is the regular building proposal deputy chief engineer. Next page. So the first one is what all things require planning permission. The planning stage is basically if you have a change of user, industrial to residential or commercial, you need to take a plan. Everything requires a planning permission because in the annexure even demolition requires planning permission. So that means every person will have to take a planning permission, whatever it is. And change of user, layout, subdivision and all. This is something very unique, but and also probably a little disheartening because layout के लिए आपको DP में जाना है, IOD के लिए आपको building proposal में आना है. This is, I don't know how it would work, but that's how it has been noted down. Development permission for accommodation reservation, non-accommodation, etc. They were already there in DP and that is going to continue. Grant of TDR, utilization of TDR will continue in DP. Textile mill again used to be in head office, so. And quarrying and cluster development again were already in head office, so they continue to be in planning. And once you take the planning permission, then only you can come to the building permission stage. Without planning permission, you cannot come to the building permission. So I don't know, there is no clarity, but I feel even if my property is 500 square meter with no reservation, etc., where I don't need a change of user, where I don't need any of this, still I have to take planning permission because the demolition of a building requires, the form mentions that demolition will go to the planning authority. Probably it is a way to understand what is happening in the city. That's how it is. The stage 2 is the building permission. It is very usual. I don't want to comment on it. It is as what we are using today. Building proposal, deputy chief engineer will have to make. So this is regular. Fees, charges and premiums. Yes, only development charges, scrutiny fee, etc. is there. The staircase premium and open space deficiency will be gone. So that is going to be abolished. There is going to be no need of it because everything has to follow the regulation. There will be no staircase premium because staircase is in FSI. There will be no open space deficiency because open space deficiency आपको मिलेगा ही. So that is how it is. The marginal open spaces have to be there. So that's why this fees will reduce, but the FSI money is going to increase. So this is a way of looking at it. Similarly, amended revised proposal, they have led clauses. 6.8 is for amendment, 6.8.1 is for deviation, 6.8.2 is for amended. And any revised proposal, you can again go to a proposed change, but you have to pay scrutiny fees for it. Coming to 6.9, communicating decision. This is from the BMC part. Once they get the application, they can refuse to grant permission or they can grant you permission without conditions. This is what it is. Similarly, 6.11 is for OC. So OC compliances, you need these NOCs, stormwater and HE road, civil estate, PCO and CFO and assessment NOC. Once you have these NOCs, you are eligible to get an OC as per these regulations when they get sanctioned. Certificate from professionals, of course, apart from BMC NOCs which you have mentioned, there will be also certification of completion to be given for these things. Structural, supervision completion, this is already there. Rainwater harvesting, energy conservation and any other professional will also have to give his own completion certificate which will be part and annexure of the OC. Similarly, certificates from other agencies have also been noted down. In case there is ULC applicable, you have to go to ULC, separate property card, etc. MADA, final NOC. These are general NOC which BMC doesn't give, but other agencies give. So you have to go and approach them and get those NOC, and then you are eligible for occupation certificate. Decision on OC is again like that. You can take OC, you can take part OC, and this time, unlike the earlier DCR, it has been said that BCC is after OC. Some people may argue that it is not in MRDP, blah blah blah, but this has been said right. The scope of permission, this is something which is in industry 6.1.3, you should read it. It basically says that everything you do is basically your responsibility, we are not responsible. That's how it should be. Government always thinks like that. Validity of past permission, this is very interesting. Once this regulation is sanctioned, so you will have a doubt कि मैं जूने regulation में जाऊँ कि नए में जाऊँ, जूने में जा सकता हूँ कि नहीं जा सकता हूँ. So this is the answer to it. If you have an IOD or CC and you have not started work within 1 year from the sanction, then the IOD gets lapsed. So let's say you have taken IOD and CC in September 2015 and these regulations get sanctioned in March. So next September this permission gets lapsed. Uske baad, if you have not started work, you have to follow the new regulation. This is how it means. Similarly, similar thing will be in IOD also. So once CC is revalidated, let's say your CC you have taken and you have started work and it is revalidated, then you can go on the old regulation. It is your choice whether you want to go on the old regulation or under new regulations. Monitoring or development is mostly site related. You have to do a site inspection, clean checking, blah blah blah. So this is all regular. In case there is any violation, they can give you a stop of notice. Withdrawal of stop of notice procedure is there, and action against non-compliance. These are all regular things. I don't think I should explain all of this. These are all textual things. Safety precautions have to be taken on site, etc. There is an appeal procedure in case you get a rejection, anything. There has been a new procedure. This is very unique. Is you have an appeal provision. You can appeal to the commissioner. He has got a grievance committee who will decide on your thing and he will put it up to the commissioner, and commissioner can within 15 days direct to you the appeal result, whatever he feels whether it should be granted or not. Coming to the third part, this is something which I really public street means an access. The next slide. This is generally the street which has been mentioned. I will go to the slides because it shows how much is the footpath, etc. I will go to the slides. So if you see a 6.1, a 20 feet, a 30 feet and a 40 feet road, the carriageway of a 30 feet and a 40 feet road is merely 8 inches different. You have actually provided more footpaths. The next slide is a 44 feet road. Again, it is very similar to the previous 40 feet road. Another 8 inches more. Basically, emphasis is on footpath. Again, 60 feet road, you have a 2 meter footpath on both sides. You can have two options, 3 meter footpaths with a lesser carriageway. This is something, there are options. The next one is 90 feet road, which is like the SV road. You have 3 meter footpaths. And then you have the 30.5, which is the LPS road, which has got 4.5 meter footpaths and lesser carriageways similarly. But you also have a 120 feet road, which has got two options of a footpath lesser than 100 feet also and probably more than. So I don't understand why you should have this. But anyways, the criteria of this footpaths, they have created bigger footpaths of 5 meters is explained in the next slide, which is something which I don't agree to. It is my opinion, you can have a different opinion. If you see this slide on the left side, they have, the DCR mentions that the footpaths are going to be for hawkers. So I really disagree, but it is my opinion, you can have your opinion. It's shown in a 1 meter space the hawker is standing. I don't agree any hawker will stand in 1 meter. I think his spot belly will be probably 1 meter. But having said that, people will walk silently on the left and footpaths will be used immediately. This is not what I agree. You can see what is the status actually of footpaths when you mark hawkers. This is my opinion. This is what it is. And I absolutely disagree. You can't have footpaths and lesser carriageways where cars, I don't know where cars will be parked and what might happen. But I really don't agree with this concept, any issues. So that is it. Alignment of roads, you have DP road, sanctioned RL. And if there is a conflict between DP road and RL, of course DP road will be supreme. And if there is a conflict on site and DP road, in case site mein rasta alag ja raha hai aur DP mein alag dikhaya gaya hai, so the commissioner will decide what is appropriate for you to. Similarly, highways and wider roads subject to highway NOC, you can get entrances from there. Intersection of roads, they are, next slide please. Everything has been shown in sketches. So that is the good part of this regulation, that everything has been shown in sketches. So you don't have to speculate or do things differently. Everything you have, U and V width of road, you have to leave the arcs as is shown there. And once you draw the diagonal perpendicular 90 degrees, you have to take 1/3 of the distance and draw an arc. So this is how you know your curvature is. So what is currently happening is some people have different curvatures for different roads. So this is very clearly marked. So easy for us and good. I feel it's a good thing. Oh, sorry. So this is how it is. The next is curb cut. This I think will be covered. This is how the curb should be. The next one. Sunil Devle sir will be presenting that. So these are the building types and these are his road width. So basically, there has been a criteria of 6 meter road where you can go 3.5 and 30 meter height only. And if you have a 9 meter road, you can go up to 70 meters with 3.5 FSI. And you need a 40 feet road for 5 FSI and you can go even higher. Things like that. But having said that, if you don't have this road, let's say you have a 9 meter road and you have to consume 5 FSI. So the next slide will tell you how you can consume that. The next slide. So if you have your plot here and you are not able to consume, so you can have a larger width of the road. Let's say you have a 40 feet road, 44 feet road, 250 meters from your plot, you still will be eligible to use that 5 FSI. This is how it is. So if you don't have a road, you should see whether you have that wider road within 250 meters of your property and then you will be eligible. Or otherwise you can give voluntary setbacks, this and the next slide. Or you can make your neighbors give setback and go for a taller building or higher FSI. Having said that, smaller plots mein to baithta nahi hai. Next slide please. So this is the width of internal axis. This is very similar to what we have in current DCR. So if you have up to 4000 meter length ज़्यादा है तो आपको इतना width होना ही चाहिए आपके axis का. Things like that. So next slide. This thing which is also there in earlier DCR. If your land property is landlocked, कोई property को access नहीं है, so commissioner can permit access by charging you by taking money from you only. So that's possible. That's a good thing. That's anyway was there in the earlier DCR. The next slide. So minimum width of pathway, if you have a building pathway up to the building up to 50 meter length होगा तो you need a pathway of 3.5 meters. Above 50 meters, if your length of the pathway till your building is longer, then you have to use this pathway. And of course 10.10 says means of access has to be constructed and maintained. तो अगर आपने road दिखाया है तो आपको maintain भी करना है. Even if it's a private street, if it is not maintained, commissioner can do it on your behalf and recover money from you. This is what it is. So this is as far as my 3 parts are concerned. But having said that, the transitional policy, which is part of my regulation, there is a circular which is there. This is how I have read it, and this is what is my opinion about it, and I feel it should be what the BMC thinks as well. I have discussed it with the Bandra zonal chief, and he had given me some hits, but it is something which we have discussed and got this. But he is not responsible if anything wrong is there. That is for sure. So the next slide, let's go. I'm going to give a pictorial representation. He was kind enough. So if the clause D is where you have to say what will happen. So if your property is earlier in 91 dp in R zone and 2034 in R zone, there is no road setback, no reservation, no change, nothing to do. You can just go ahead with your IDCCOC. कोई problem नहीं है. Please go ahead. Next slide. If in D, so in 91 you have a reservation, which is a buildable reservation. Unfortunately, this PH color green आया. But in the new DPO reservation हट गया है. But that is not this good news for you after the DP gets sanctioned. Till now, you still are under this, so you have to follow the 91 regulation. So that's why the 91 is strict. In clause DC, the reservation is non-buildable. पहले public housing buildable reservation था, and it is non-buildable now. So you can't do anything on this. The stringent one applies. So RG will apply, and you cannot do anything in your property. The next one is partly non-buildable. Now this is a challenge where you have a property which is partly RG and partly no reservation. And in the new DP, incidentally, आपका reservation हट गया है. Good news for you again after the DP sanction. अभी आपको जितना RG छोड़ के जमीन है उसी का FSI और etc. मिलेगा. You will have to carve out the RG and has to leave intact. Coming to DP, when there is a plot which is affected by DP road. So this is something where again पहले में road setback नहीं है, नए में DP road setback है. So the road setback is applicable to you because the stringent applies. The guidelines for how to do this is going to be shortly decided. Coming to DF, reservation where there is no IOD. So IOD has been protected in this circular. So if you don't have IOD, so let's say आपके 91 DP में freehold property है. So as per 91 DP, you are supposed to do a building. But in the SRDP 2034, there is a developable reservation of let's say municipal or whatever it was. But color आ गया तो आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते. You have to either develop it as per this or you have to wait. The next one, H is where IOD is protected. The same reservation if आपका IOD हो गया होता था. If your IOD was there in your hand, then this would not have applied. 91 would have applied. You are eligible to take IOD, CC, NOC without any problems. Even road setbacks, one setback, please. So in case even if this property had a road setback, IOD, CC, OC as per this IOD would have been eligible because 64 weekender आपको जो concession मिला है, that will continue with your IOD, CC. Okay. Now in case of layout, this is something which I would say which people are in a different opinion. आपको लगा होगा कि layout है 10,000 मीटर का, 8,500 मीटर का IOD हो गया तो पूरा प्लॉट फ्री हो गया. ऐसा नहीं है. Your plot is 10,000 square meter, 15% छोड़ के 8,500 FSI, 10,000 TDR, total is 24 including fungible. So जितना आपने concession लिया है, so let's say you have taken concession for 4,000 square meter building. So 16,000 out of 24 has been set aside. So the remaining 9,000 जिसका आपने IOD नहीं लिया है, उसका proportionate land area, in this case 35%, have to be carved out and you will not get permission for this. Only the buildings which you have got IODCC, proportionate to that area, you will get IODCC and OC also. The next clause is, it's not pictorial now, revised survey remarks has to be taken. Because there is a 2034 and BMC has to confirm it, you have to take remarks. And everybody is already setting files for remarks. BMC to give report of status within 15 days. This is what is their job and they are doing it. I think already all building proposal staffs are on it. In extraordinary cases, MRDB 51. Now this is not something the BMC legi. In extraordinary cases, basically there are some important reservations which are required. And incidentally, there is a building which has come up or IOD has been granted. So in case of extraordinary cases, they can do that. Having said that, MRDB 51 says in expedient cases. Expedient means it is required, it could be immoral. That is how it mentions. I did that dictionary check. But having said that, this extraordinary case is actually extraordinary. जिसमें जरूरत होगी और पब्लिक के नीड के लिए रिजर्वेशन की जरूरत होगी तो ही वो रिवोक होगा, otherwise not. And all BPDP shall scrutinize all as per this policy. And in concessions, you have to further जो concession जाएंगे उसमें you have to mention this. Residual matters you have to refer to the chief engineer MC. And BMC officers actually the first time I will refrain from this talk. So इसके अलावा अगर आपको कुछ गलत लग रहा है तो please speak to your senior before you do anything. Because if negative environment या if something negative is said, तो builder को heart attack नहीं आएगा. Thank you so much and for your attention hearing. This is what is my part. Thank you.